back with comedian David Boyle, and I'm quitting alcohol. So I'm getting my Indian driver's license sorted at the moment, and it's a fucking shit fight to get. But thank God for corruption, because without corruption, this country would be finished. You would get fucking nothing done. So I've been driving around with no license here, which is a problem because if I get pulled over, I'm definitely going to have to bribe the fucking police, and they're not going to let me off lightly. Like, I mean bribe-wise, not arrested. I wouldn't get arrested. Even if you drink driving here, you can just bribe out. And they're not even testing for drink driving at the moment because of COVID-19. They're not allowed to do the breath testing, so everyone's just driving around drunk as fuck, my wife included. I just don't want to have to deal with the police. One of my wife's friends' dads was like an ex-chief of police or some shit. So if there's an emergency, if they're hassling me hard and they're trying to fucking scam me a little too much, I can just call him and get it sorted out, and they'll just let me go. My wife's used his name once. We got pulled over once. I forget what it was for. It was for fucking something. Can't remember. But they just wouldn't let up on the fucking bribe. And then my wife said her friend's dad's name, and they just let us drive off. They're like, all right, sorry, see you later. This country works if you have connections, if you have influence, or if you have money. If you have all three of those, this country is paradise. But if you have none of those three, you're in big fucking trouble here. Like, we went for dinner at this restaurant the other day. It was like a big fucking club. It's an old British fucking joint. It was great. But the restaurant manager there was just fucking ignoring us and didn't give a fuck. I asked him for about 3 different things and he said he couldn't do it. I'm like, can I get a black tea? And he's like, no way. Look at the time. It's like 6:30. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? And then I called him over again. I'm like, can I get a glass of hot water? Really hot water? He said, okay. I'm like, can you get me a fucking tea bag too? Just get me a tea bag next to the hot water. And he wasn't interested at all. And then one of my wife's cousins, a younger dude, he knew the catering manager or some shit. He calls the catering manager. The catering manager gets on the phone to this fucking restaurant manager. The restaurant manager's like, okay, sir. Gave the phone back to this cousin. And then I swear to God, it was like fucking 5-star service for the rest of the night. Anything we wanted. Off menu. I was just naming shit and they were fucking making it after that. Nothing was too difficult. But before that, Jesus Christ. So you've got to have influence, connections, or money here. And usually one begets the other. So I'm just trying to get my driver's license to avoid all the bullshit. And they just make it difficult for fucking foreigners here. They just make you jump through some fucking unnecessary hurdles. So I need to have a proof of address, which I don't have. I need to have a driver's license with my proof of address to show them to get a driver's license. It makes no fucking sense. Or I need one of these ADAR cards, which is like a fucking universal card. I don't know what the fuck it is. And the only way you can get one of these cards is if you have a driver's license. So we're like, what the fuck are we meant to do then? And what we're meant to do is lubricate the wheels of bureaucracy. Everything is impossible to do here until you pull out your wallet. Can I get a license? No. Why not? You haven't got an address. Can I get my address? Can I sign an affidavit? Can I do this? Can I do that? No. Then you open your wallet and they're like, well, we'll see what we can do. We'll work it out. Whatever needs to be done will be done. The only problem is if you haven't got a cracker here, you are virtually invisible. I don't know how the fuck people work their way from the bottom to the top here. My father-in-law did it. You should see where my father-in-law grew up. Like, dirt poor. He's not from like a prominent caste. I think he's from one of the backwards castes. And he grew up when caste matters and somehow worked his fucking way through to become someone with influence and connections. Just not a lot of money. There's not a lot of money in poetry. But it has changed a little bit since my father-in-law was growing up because the property market exploded. So all these sort of poor people who owned farming land for 100 generations, when property started booming, they started making a bit of money. selling off their ancestral property, their farmland, and then moving up the ranks a little bit. So there is a little bit of social movement here, but even that's slowing down. I look at the poor people here sometimes and I'm just like, how the fuck do you not just jump in front of a bus? A lot of them do, actually. Farmer suicide is like fucking high here. They get into debt, they borrow some money to fucking plant their corn or whatever. It doesn't work out for a couple of seasons and then they just off themselves. Like, farmer suicide is a big thing here. Anyway, fuck that. All I'm worried about is my driver's license. I know it's greedy, but I don't want to have to wait 2 months for a fucking driver's license. Let's get those wheels in motion. Let's get my driver's license in 2 weeks. How much is it going to cost, cunt? I'll find out more tomorrow. Anyway, let's move on to this week's Ask Boyle. Ask me a question, sell me a lime. It's Ask Boyle time. Ask Boyle. So if you have a burning question you want answered by one of the greatest minds of the generation, just send it in to my email. I'm boylecomedy@gmail.com, or join the Patreon, send it through there. The links to the Patreon are in my social media bios, or just send me a message and I'll fucking send you the link myself. So this week's Ask Boyle is a very quick and simple one sent in from Pennsylvania by one of the ladies, and she wants to know, are you polyamorous? Why or why not? Well, lady, you have come to the right place. I only know 2 things about the poly community. The first one is I watched a documentary in Australia about poly couples and they all seemed autistic. There was something wrong with either 1 or 2 of the fucking 3 people couples. And in a few of them, there was something wrong with all 3. So when I was watching that documentary, I wasn't like, fuck, I want a bit of that action. And then actually, not long after that, I did a gig and there was a poly couple in the front row of the gig. There was a girl and 2 dudes. And one of the dudes looked fucking on the spectrum as well. He was autistic as fuck. And I told her I saw that documentary and she'd seen it before. And I'm like, they all looked autistic. And she said, yes, in the poly community, there are a lot of people on the spectrum. Which is just the polite way of saying I'm banging a lot of fucking autistics. So that's the first thing I know about poly. And the second thing I know is one of my wife's best friends is a lesbian. And she jumps on Grindr, and she's like, pretty much every single person on Grindr now is looking for a third wheel. Everyone's poly now. And she's like, it's annoying as fuck. And I'm like, yeah, it would be annoying dealing with all those autistics. And I know the fucking poly community aren't all autistics. There's also a few borderlines as well that don't quite qualify. So to be honest with you, I didn't even know what polyamorous was till like fucking a year ago or something. So I am not polyamorous. And there's a very like clear-cut reason for that as well. It just all boils down to I have no intention in sharing my wife with anyone. I don't want to share her with anyone. I have no interest in sharing her with anyone. I am very happy with it just being me and her. That's the main thing. I don't want anyone else banging my wife. Somebody banging my wife? Are you fucking out of your mind? Fuck that. I'm actually like sexually conservative. Depending on what sort of like spiral I'm in. I'm straight up old school, except like at the end of a meth bender or something like that. I always found that what I was like interested in sexually, like kink-wise, like the kink sort of shit, which I don't give a fuck about. But it was linked directly with how much of a piece of shit I felt about myself. That's just me. Like if I felt like a piece of shit within myself, I was more willing and more tempted to do like more extreme shit. And when I was feeling good about myself, I didn't give a fuck about it at all. That's just me though. I don't know what the fuck the rest of the people are up to, but I full on believe that sex is dangerous as fuck. Just the same as drugs is, as alcohol is, as fucking anything is. And just like those things, the more you push the boundaries, the outer edges of your sexuality, the more extreme things are going to get. For example, you start jerking off to porn, just normal porn, then you move to something a little bit more extreme, Then by the time you're like fucking 18, you're fucking jerking off to incest, fucking three-legged porn, like crazy shit. And you still can't even get a hard on. I don't think that's good. You're playing with fire there. But the thing is, these days, it's so fucking hard because people, especially the younger people, the Tinder generation, the fucking Bumble generation, you fuck so many people before you find someone. It's pretty hard to fucking stop once you find someone. Like, I did all right back in the day, but I was working analog. I was going up to girls in bars and shit like that. Some of these young kids now, they tell me how much they're fucking, and I'm like, what the fuck? But they lack the skills of, say, someone like David Boyle. It's crazy. This generation's going to be fucked. They'll probably have to end up letting their partners fuck a few other people just to get them to stick. So the main reason I don't want to be poly is because I don't want to share my wife with anyone. The other thing is, I feel like if, especially me, I'm talking about myself here, I may not be as enlightened as the fucking rest of you, but I would see there would be problems with like weaponizing sex against your partners in a poly relationship. Like if you have a fight and the girl goes out and fucks, like I just think you have to be a little sociopathic. I'm not saying you who sent in this question. I'm just saying there has to be an element of that. I had a mate who tried the open relationship thing, and he is autistic as well. And he convinced his girlfriend to have an open relationship. She banged like 20 dudes in about a month. He had sex with one fat Asian girl. And she went off her fucking head. But she has feelings and shit. He doesn't. He's like a sociopath, autistic, spectrum-y dude. He's a comedian. I would probably, because I'm a little bit vindictive, I'm trying to get that out of myself. I'm an angry dude. I'm trying to sort that out too. I would probably fucking use it to hurt someone, which I don't want to do. Like, it's hard enough just having fucking one wife. That's complex enough. The complexity of a polyamorous relationship, I just would never have any fucking interest in that. Leave that to the fucking Mormons and the autistics. The polyamorous community is going to be fucking angry at me today. But anyway, I hope I answered your question. No, I'm not polyamorous, but if you want to send me some pictures of... No, fucking don't do that. Do not fucking do that. Anyway, that's it for tonight. If you're enjoying the podcast, share it around, tell people about it, and I'll see you the fuck later.